And welcome back. Congressman, just so I don't screw this up in the future, I introduced you as the first vice chair of the House Progressive Caucus. It was always, in my mind, the House Progressive Caucus, but recently I got a press release from the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Did they change the name? Is it the same thing? Is there a separate organization?
No, it's just been the name because we've been the CPC since I've been here. So
okay.
Progressive Caucus, maybe at some point before I got here. But just like there's the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, we're the CPC, Congressional Progressive Caucus.
Got it. Okay, thank you. David in Pittsburgh, California. David, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Yeah, I have a three-pronged approach that I think the congressman should do in Congress, and that is stop playing games with the Republicans and dig their heels in and push for single-payer option. Stop playing around with these guys. The other thing is go back to your representative counties and get these kids that have not been pulled into the system of the Democratic Party. Go to the colleges, junior colleges, and high schools and talk to these kids and tell them what you are doing and what is preeminent to do. And the third prong of this is to regulate the insurance industry. Pure, unadulterated regulation of the insurance industry and get them out of the healthcare industry completely. And I'll take your answer offline.
Thank you, David.
Sure. Well, David had a lot, so let me see what I can do quickly on the 3 points. First of all, I guess I would push back a little on the fact that we're playing games with the Republicans because I don't think you're going to have a Democratic vote for this tax bill disguised as healthcare. And we've been fighting it throughout the night on various committees. We're fighting it in our districts. We're going around having town halls. So I don't think you're going to see a single Democrat vote for this thing. And so I think that hopefully your fears will be not found true on that. Secondly, I completely agree. Younger voters, my district has something like 70, 80,000 higher education students, 45,000 alone at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And we're doing a town hall on campus over the Easter break to make sure we're reaching out to students on a regular basis. I think you have to show, like Bernie did, you're talking to people about issues that they actually care about. And, I've heard some politicians say the way you reach out to young voters is you buy them pizza. That is about the stupidest thing I have ever heard. And you've got to show the respect and actually talk about issues they care about, which is things like marijuana legalization and making sure that they can get a good paying job once they get out of college, and that we're taking care of the environment because they're thinking about the kids they're going to have someday. We need to have those honest, real conversations. And I think Bernie did the best job I've seen recently of that. And finally, I think as many things as we might want to do, and I definitely would prefer to have a single-payer Medicare for all system, it's not going to pass with this current Congress, and we have to right now just fight what they're putting forward. But we can still talk about and move those issues forward ideologically. It's just not on the floor of Congress. We don't have the ability to.
Amen. Bob in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hello, Tom, and respect to you, Mark Pocan.
Thank you, Bob.
I wonder if the Democratic Party, and in particular the progressives, will begin to be more outspoken against continuing prohibition on cannabis for farmers to grow hemp and for people to grow their marijuana patches or their indoor grow rooms or whatever is necessary to get on with the business and the industry of cannabis instead of keeping it in prohibition, which is a Nazi sort of a thing to do. I wonder about that.
Okay, let's get to Congressman Pocan's thoughts.
Bob, first of all, I agree with you. I think I'm on every bill we have trying to make sure that we stop this prohibition on marijuana. it's foolish. It's put a lot of people in prison, ruined a lot of people's lives, and it's been a foolish fight that we've had. And I agree with you. I mean, I think this is one of the issues. When I talk to a lot of younger voters, they don't understand why we're not more outspoken on this issue. We recently started a cannabis caucus. So there are a lot of us in Congress joining that. So I do see things moving forward in this area. But I agree. I mean, again, we should be talking to people about what people actually talk about and care about. And this is one of those issues. And for too long, a lot of politicians who've been around for a long time, let's put it politely that way, have been afraid to touch some issues that really show that they're out of touch with where the public's at.
Okay. Aliana, am I saying that right, in Seattle?
Yes, it's Elena. Thank you so much for taking my call. I wanted to ask Congressman about his opinion on the Trump budget plan, specifically about the UN funding. As I understand, he wants to slash by $20 billion. And we have famine in Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, and South Sudan. So, and also he wants to stop refugees coming from those countries. So, do you think that the Republican Party stands for death and destruction?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Elena. But let me say this. I completely agree with you. What he's doing to both funding for the UN, but also for all the development funding we do around the world. Even our military personnel will tell you that that's an integral part of what we're doing. You can't just have bombs dropped and drones flying over people and think that's international diplomacy. You have to have the ability to help people who need help, and we've got some resources, and that's part of how you are an international citizen. And the fact that he's cutting all these things and then introducing bans on certain types of people, it shows the complete ignorance of having someone with no experience come in, and it's the area I worry about the most. I mean, I think there are some checks and balances on much of the domestic programming, but when it comes to internationally, if he does this helps groups like ISIS recruit people to work with them, because every fear they've been told and lied to by ISIS about the United States comes true when you have a president who does actions and says things like this president does. And then if you cut the funding for the programs we do, that even the military, again, says is an important part of how we reach out to the rest of the world. It's very, I wish it was just ignorance and not malfeasance. In this case, I'm terribly concerned like you are. And one last thing, Elena, Pramila Jayapal, you recently sent from Seattle, outstanding progressive. Thank you very much. She's going to have a terrific career here.
Great. Mike in Fairview, Michigan. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thanks, Tom. Mr. Pocan, I live in Michigan. You live in Wisconsin. That $300 million, and now Trump has deducted it down to 10. I can see all the algae blooms just forming now. Is there class action, some sort of, I don't know.
You're talking about his cutting funding for support of the Great Lakes?
The EPA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, and the cuts in the EPA. Yeah, I hear you, Mike. I mean, the cuts. Those of us who live in the Great Lakes, first of all, we've been doing a lot, I think, to try to protect our water across state lines, trying to work together because it's important. And when they start taking away the funds, specifically, I wish I had the sheet right in front of me on the exact amount of money, but it is a ton of money that's coming out in this area for the cleanup of those lakes. And again, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, your state. There could be no better example of what happens when you don't respect air and water than Flint, Michigan. And when you have a governor that, essentially forces a local community to go get polluted water rather than good water, and then they're surprised why there's lead poisoning, and you're going to spend so much more to make up for it. That's what happens when you shortchange the simple cleanup efforts that we've always funded. So I think the cuts that you're talking about are going to have devastating impacts, and that's why we're going to do everything we can to try to fight them. But this is one of the biggest, deepest cuts are in the areas of the environment, so that he can fund $54 billion of new defense spending.
Okay. Let's see here. Scott in Canaan, Maine. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan. We're about 3.5 minutes out from the end of this hour.
All right, Tom. Let me get you off speaker.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. You hear me okay?
Yep, just fine.
Okay. I was curious. talked to my Senator King from Maine this morning, and I haven't been able to get a hold of my Representative Pingree. But I was wondering, instead of, all the rigmarole that's going on with the health care thing right now, why not just open up Medicare and give the American people the choice? And stop treating us like we're incapable of making a decision on our own. Why not just open that up and let the American people decide what they want? Trump care or, single payer health care. Why is that so hard to do? What's the big deal about it? And it already exists, and just let the American people decide what they want instead of having this other crap ran down our throat. And
Scott, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Scott, you propose a great intellectual argument, right? I think if you allowed people, people would support opening up Medicare for all because it's so much cleaner and easier than most every proposal that we've had in recent history. And look at Canada, look at Europe. It works. It works fine. The difficulty is the reality of Congress. We can't put that even on the floor, so that never would become a political reality that we can get done in the next few years unless you start changing the faces of Congress. So your representative is an outstanding one. Shelley Pingree is a strong advocate for making sure that we've got access to health care for everyone. But there are a lot of people in Congress right now that won't let us. That's why they're in the majority. And I've said this before, Tom, and I'll say it again, elections have consequences. This is why what's coming up in 2018 is so important, and people keeping up their level of activism is absolutely vital.
Yeah. Congressman, we just have a little less than a minute before the end of the show. Thoughts for our listeners and viewers on this week?
I'll tell you, I think the budget proposal that came out, people are just starting to understand what he's doing. And if you look at it, it is devastating. To take 30% cuts to the EPA, cutting the State Department where we try to do things internationally that are positive things for people, cutting agriculture and labor, those are things that affect real people across America and rural America. This is the reality of what Donald Trump getting elected president means. And we have to continue the pressure, the successes we've had, and double down our efforts with those groups because we're ultimately going to win. But there was a consequence of the last election, and we just have to be fighting hard as the resistance. I'll do my best here in Washington with a lot of others, but we need everyone to keep doing what you're doing. I am very optimistic that we can change this and turn this around.
Yeah, I am too, and I think that there's just a groundswell of outrage right now, and we just have to translate that into people showing up to vote and participating in the Democratic Party. Frankly, it's not going to be all that easy, but if this is the perfect moment, Congressman, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Tom, as always.
It is always a pleasure and an honor to have you with us, Congressman Mark Pocan. You can tweet him at Rep Mark Pocan, as in Representative Mark Pocan. His website is pocan.house.gov. Thank you, Congressman. We'll be back right after this.